it's me, Renee. I'm back, and I have a different background today because I felt like it, and this is gonna be a bit more than a bit more of a vlog than a direct kind of. It's not gonna be a tag. It's not gonna be a book review. It's more like or TBR. It's more gonna be a vlog. Last week and a bit of the big week before that, I went to vacation, on vacation. I've hinted at this before, but now, yeah, I've been there. I went to New York City and Washington, D.C., and yeah, it was a very nice time. I mean, it's kind of fun because, I mean, at least, well, yeah, I mean, Washington and New York are both kind of close to each other. That's why we went to both cities. But yeah, it's about the northern hemisphere. So October is fall for them too. Like if you go to, for example, Chile in South America, then October would be spring. But in North America, United States, October is fall. Yet like it was sunny pretty much every day, and I suppose I can't really say like how warm it was because like we use different ways of saying how warm it was. But like for me, I like the latter part of the day I could just walk around in a singlet. I didn't really need that many layers. Well, I mean, see here today, I need 2 layers, and I'm inside. Oh, of course, like yeah, that's another thing. But um, the prices for energy has gone up in a way, and I think also the world. So you kind of have to save energy. So yeah, I'm wearing a sweater inside. But yeah, anyway, so in the United States, at least in the first part of the trip in New York, it was so warm and just nice. Like in the morning, in like 10, 11 in the morning, it wasn't. It was a bit chilly. But after a few hours, it was just became so nice and so. I would say kind of perfect weather because it never got like hot. Like it wasn't like I went around sweating. It didn't get that hot. It got like comfortable, like it was sunny and you could just kind of walk around and like I didn't bring a hat because I kind of for like it's October, so you really won't need a hat. But it was sunny sometimes, so like you just kind of had to hold like for my forehead to like see because it was just I got blinded by the sun. That was nice. And yeah, so like the trip I went to, it was a package trip, so you had like a program. So there were two travel guides, and then you had two expert guides. So the experts were retired journalists, and they both lived in both Washington and New York, so they knew a lot about the cities and Americans and stuff. So like every day before, like we started every day with breakfast, of course, and then we had like a lecture, I kind of semi-formal lecture by them, where they talked about the places we were gonna go or just the city in general and stuff like that. And it was very nice. And the two journalists, they were okay. So they were married. Like at this point, they're married to each other, but they used to have different spouses. But like the woman, she would often go around saying my current husband, and that sounds like you kind of that like you're on a way out of a marriage. But they said that no, it wasn't like she didn't like her husband. It was more like, well, it's almost was precise. I suppose, yeah. I mean, usually you just say my husband or my partner, but I suppose you could say your current partner because that is precise. That is true, quite true. So yeah, that was kind of fun thing that she did. She didn't say that often, but like she said, like that's just a thing that she did in her everyday life. She talked about my current husband. So yeah, kind of fun thing there. And yeah, what did I do? You're probably asking. Well, the first day we went to Central Park, and we also went a bit around New York. Well, we went around Manhattan. I mean, New York is big. So like during the time there, we went to Manhattan, and so we lived in Hell's Kitchen, where that's in Manhattan. So we spent most of the days in Manhattan. Then we went to Brooklyn one day, and then we went to yeah, that was it. Really, we went to those two boroughs. So I mean, yeah, New York is huge, and we didn't see far from all of it, but we saw I suppose we didn't see all of Manhattan either, but like we saw Times Square, we saw Central Park. So I would say like, and we saw Empire State Building, so we saw the big things, like some of the big things anyway. Uh, and then on the second day we went to Ellis Island, and then we went. Well, so the boat goes from New York to Ellis Island, and in case you don't know, the Statue of Liberty is also on an island. It's not in New York. Well, it's not on Manhattan Island. It's on its own island. But like with the boat which it took, it went from New York to the Statue of Liberty Island and stopped there, and then it went to Ellis Island, and then way back. Uh, but we went there with like the group, so and like we decided that we weren't gonna go off on Statue of Liberty Island because we could take just as many good photos from the boat, and like there's a long queue, so might as well stay at the boat. That's what we did. We got lots of nice photos. I'll have some of them here, maybe. I'll see. And then yeah, we stopped on Ellis Island, and yeah, this I don't know. I mean, part of the trip, like New York, it's been a place that I kind of really much have on my bucket list. I kind of really want to go there. So it's just very nice to go there and like see Central Park and these big kind of monumental places like Times Square, and yeah, just kind of walking around New York. And yeah, so like I have had like an idea of New York and like thought of it, but I've never been there before. I've just seen it lots of times on TV and movies. But yeah, I also knew that Ellis Island, like I knew Ellis Island was like the island that the immigrants came to before they, like when they arrived in the United States, they often went mm, via, went by Ellis Island and then went further. But for some reason, I can always imagine that, like, okay, so they come on a boat, stop the boat on Ellis Island, walk inside, and then they go in this big building, they go in a long queue, and then when it's their turn, they just write down their name and then just walk out of the building. I mean, it wouldn't say it out loud, it just sounds so simplistic, but that's how I thought. That was how I thought it worked. Of course, when I came to Ellis Island, because there's also an Ellis Island museum in that building where they used to have the immigrants now, and I discovered no, it's much more complicated than that. They walk in a queue, yes, a long queue, but like first they have to come to some place where they're integrated, like they're asked where you're from, what's the name, how do you know English, and how they do different stuff like that, and then if you seem fragile or sick, you go into like a room for like people who are sick, and you kind of check if you're like if you should get some medical help or whatever. And if you seem to be like sketchy, they take you into like a courtroom where they have like lawyers and stuff. So it's not like walking into a building and then walk out of the building in just a long queue. No, it's much more than that, really. But yeah, so that surprised me. But I suppose you learn as long you live. No, you learn as long as you live. Learn something new every day. Isn't that what you say? So yeah. Um. But yeah, I went there, and then when we got back after our sign trip, we went around. We went and found the Strand. Of course, when I'm going to New York, I'm gonna have to go to Strand. Like, well, I'm going like my one of my goals, like main goals, was going to the Strand. So yeah, I was very excited to get there because it's a bookstore in a city we haven't been before. Like, okay, so I went with my parents. I went didn't go around alone, and also like we went with a group. Like I went with my parents, and then in a group, like the main bigger thing. But yeah, me and my parents went to the Strand, but it took some time before I found it. So sadly, I only got to be there for half an hour. I kind of could have like wanted to be there for more time. But I mean, I suppose again, like if I've been there for 5 hours, would that have been enough? I mean, the Strand, it's one of the oldest bookstores in the world. They have 4 floors. For some reason that day they just had 3 floors, like one floor was closed, but like still 3 floors. I mean, it's not really that many bookstores in the world that has 3 floors, like 3 big floors. And that's not that common. So you kind of want to spend time there. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is really. But yeah, I did really enjoy like the tournament that I did get there. It was, yeah, so nice, like predictable enough. I just went around just smiling, like huge, like, oh, I'm at this run. I'm so happy. It's just, it was, yeah, just so fun and so such a joyous time. Yeah, I'm just so happy. And of course, I bought some books there, so I'm gonna show them to you. I bought Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado. So this kind of I've been having it on my radar, and it's Latin American History Month. So I thought, yeah, why not buy a Latinx book? So yeah, I bought this one. It's a YA contemporary read with Latinx representation, also fat representation. So yeah, and then I bought Station Eternity by Mur Lafferty. So I love Mur Lafferty's series, her other series called, for some reason I'm just blanking out on our series. I'm just gonna check it out. It's called like the guide. You know what? I'm just gonna. Doesn't say for some reason. Okay. I'm pretty sure her series is called like the Rambling Guide to New York City, and then New Orleans. So yeah, and I haven't really read other books by her, but I'm thinking that this has gotten lots of good hype, and like her books, I know her books, like her writing in general, even though I haven't read all her books, but like, yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited to read this one. It came out this year, and I've heard good things about it. So excited. Yes, so that was the Strand, and like that first or that second day. And then that evening we went to Broadway. Of course, going to New York City, you have to go to Broadway. You can't go to New York without going to Broadway. I suppose you can go like if you don't like musicals at all, but like then why are you going to New York? Well, I suppose there's other stuff, but like it's kind of such a mantle, such a big thing in like New York, the New York public eye. So yeah, we went uh, to Broadway. We went to the Six, which is quite a new Broadway musical. I'm not kind of new. Not quite. I think maybe it started like in 2018, 19, 2020. Not that many years ago. As usual, I don't quite know, but I think it hasn't been 10 years at least. Yeah, it's been around 5 years, I think. And it's a musical based around the six wives of Henry VIII. And so I love history, and I yeah, I think I love musicals. And I heard lots of good things about this musical, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to see this because I really want to see this one. But yeah, as I said, I had high hopes for it because I've heard only praise for this musical. I heard that it's so good, and it's gotten lots of good, um, uh, yeah, gotten lots of Tony prizes, etc., etc. I went to see it, and sadly, I was disappointed. Like, okay, so for me, like part of the attraction to musical is that it's kind of so theatrical, so grand. Like there's a big stage, you have big numbers, you have costumes, but you also have sets. Like you have the whole shebang. Like it's a big production, like it's a big thing. And the thing was that with this with this musical, it kind of felt more like a concert, honestly, than a musical because okay, yeah, they had costumes on, but all of the singers or characters were on stage at all time, like well, more or less at the same time, all the time, and they were just like there were just six characters. They're like, okay, so yeah, it was about Henry VIII's wives, yes, but you didn't have any other roles in those. It was just those people, those characters, and then you had a band at the scene. Like it was like a band close to the scene, but it was a band on the scene. Like we're watching the band. I kind of felt wrong for me really, and I suppose it wouldn't have been that bad if the songs were very good or entertaining. But I kind of felt like the songs were fine. Like they weren't awful, but they were kind of forgettable. Like the one song that I remember is kind of like the song that they sing together. Like I think it's called The Six or The Sixes, and that one I enjoy, but I didn't love that one as well. So yeah, sadly that was a bummer. I mean, the the theater room itself was nice, like the room itself was nice, but other than that, I mean, also like they sang well. Like I suppose they work like as actors and singers, so I suppose you should like have a certain level of really of quality to the singing voice. So that's not really not that unexpected. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't love it. So sadly. But again, like because as I said, I had like high hopes for it, but I also like I had heard only good things about it. So I think if I hadn't seen it myself, I think I would still like walk around thinking like, oh, I want to see it, I want to see it. I kind of needed to get it out of my system. Like sometimes when you hear about a movie or book or whatever have you, and then uh, and then you think, oh, I want to see it, and then you end up not seeing it, and you kind of just forget about it. But some things you kind of feel like, no, you know what, I really want to see it. You kind of have to see it or experience it for yourself to like get it out of your system. Sounds a bit weird, but yeah, to kind of like it won't really it won't get out of your mind before you see it, experience it yourself. So yeah. So yeah, I don't regret watching it, but I do regret being it being as bad as it was, but like, it's not like I made it better though than it would have been otherwise. I don't know, but yeah. Yeah, it was disappointment. Sadly, it was that. And yeah, then on the next day we went to Brooklyn. We actually walked over the Brooklyn Bridge, which yeah, was quite an experience. It was nice to like walk over the bridge. We had beautiful view, and yeah, I very much enjoyed that. And then that evening, we just kind yeah, after that we just kind of had lunch and just kind of walked around. Sorry, I just wow, sorry, why am I saying something? I just tapped the computer, but yeah, what have you. Yeah, and then the day after that, we drove because we had that bus that we had rented for the whole time. So we drove from New York to Washington, and we stopped in for lunch at in Philadelphia, and I really enjoyed that. We went to the Museum of American Revolution, which is in Philadelphia. You would kind of think that would kind of be an old museum because the American Revolution happened in the 1700s, so many years ago. But yeah, they didn't open this museum for before like 3 or 2 years ago, so it's actually quite a new museum. But I did like it, and I also like I suppose you could kind of notice that it's a new museum because it didn't just focus on the role of the white men in the revolution, but it also focused on had like aspects of the women in the revolution, the focus on black people during the revolution, or also the Indians. But yeah, it had all these voices and these people represented in the exhibition, which yeah, I appreciated that. It was nice, and yeah, I liked that. And then after that, we went, yeah, and when it came to Washington in the evening. And then next day, we went to like the mall, which, and I still don't really know what it's called the mall, but yeah, it's this area in Washington where you have the Capitol, the White House, and all these government buildings, like I suppose the center. I mean, big cities like that don't really have one center, but like I suppose it's the political center of Washington. And yeah, honestly, I really like that place because I mean the buildings in New York, you probably might know this, but like the government buildings in New York, most of them are like they're based on the Roman empires, so they all look so like the ancient Greece buildings and stuff, so they look very classical, and yeah, it's quite beautiful. It's just very beautiful style, but it's also kind of fun because when you walk closer and see like built in 1850 or built in 1950. So like, oh, it's quite a recent building for like this style. Which I mean, usually when you build a building, you have either have it in the present style or a style that's quite recent, but those buildings were like ancient style. But I suppose they wanted to kind of make people think of the ancient Greece, and also as with ancient Greece people, they kind of were the cradle of democracy, and the US kind of feel like they're like the best at democracy, which they aren't. They're pretty much sure they aren't. I mean, they always talk about how America is like the best and like the country of the free. When it's like, yeah, do you? Is it the best country in the world? Is it the freest country in the world? I'm not quite sure it is. I mean, yeah, I could think of a lot of ways you aren't. I mean, you're like the only one country in the world. Well, you're like the only rich country in the world that does not have maternity leave, like in a law. Some people places you can get it, but it's not in the law. So yeah, that's a good example of why, like, is that freedom? Is it to have to go back to work days after you begin birth? Is it freedom? I don't really think it is. So yeah, yeah. And then I kind of also, like, except like going around like in Washington, like doing stuff I was supposed to do. We also like we got also free times. And now there was no program. You can do whatever you want. So of course, when that happened, I kind of wanted to find a bookstore, and this kind of really uh, surprised me about Washington. Now it wasn't like it was that different in New York City, but yeah, it was kind of more prevalent in Washington. So, like in Norway, if I want to go to a bookstore and I'm in a new city, or if like I'm in pretty much any city in Norway, I can just walk around like the main center and I'll just find a bookstore. Like I'll just stumble across a bookstore. I don't really have that good of a sense of direction. Like I can stumble across a bookstore. There are so many bookstores around Norwegian centers, like in the cities, no issue. Well, Washington, of course, I did check. They had bookstores. So of course, like it's a capital city, they will have some bookstores. And we did like walk around the mall and the area there. We didn't find any bookstores. We did not find any. Like I do know that they have both independent bookstores. Yeah. So we didn't find any independent bookstores, but also Barnes and Noble, like the big chain bookstore in the US, they actually don't have any traditional bookstores in Washington. They have one at Howard University and one at a Catholic university. But both those are kind of like academic, like based, like geared towards the students. So like ordinary Barnes and Noble does not exist anymore in Washington D.C. You have one in Arlington, which is close, but it's not technically in D.C. But yeah, I didn't go there because of time. So yeah, it kind of felt so weird to me, like having a capital and like supposedly the capital of the free world, and the bookstore is not like easily accessible. Or, like there are not bookstore around every corner. I suppose yeah, like in Norway, someplace like for example Oslo, the capital of Norway, you can sometimes find like a bookstore here and then two doors down you can find another bookstore. I suppose that might be a bit too much. Like, do you need bookstores that close to each other? But like, at least in my mind, you should still like have bookstores, like have at least one bookstore in every street. And they didn't really seem to be that in Washington. Or I suppose maybe they did because like they had also like long streets, which I suppose everything in the States is bigger, and that is kind of thing you say, but it's also kind of true. Things were big, like yeah, a lot of things were big, but still, yeah, they would. They didn't really have that many bookstores. Like maybe they just had all the bookstores in one street, and they didn't spread them across the city. I don't know. It was strange to me. Weird. And also, yeah, that didn't have Barnes and Noble in the city. That was quite weird and sad. But I suppose, yeah, probably has to do with Amazon, but also the Corona period. So like, economy is not like. I mean, it's easier for people to buy online than go to a bookstore. But yeah, in my mind, that's just quite sad. And yeah, freest country in the world, and your capital doesn't have a lot of bookstores, doesn't have Barnes and Noble. I don't think you're that free. I don't think you're that free. I, I, I am. Yeah, I disagree with that statement. Well, I've already disagreed with it, but yeah, that makes me just disagree more really. So yeah, I didn't end up going to Barnes and Noble because yeah, I kind of had like a goal to go to Barnes and Noble. I suppose like yeah, I could have found like gone to a bookstore, like independent bookstore in Washington, but I didn't find it either, so that didn't happen. The closest I got was like a museum store which had like a few shelves of books, but yeah, um, that was nice enough. But yeah, but yeah, I kind of wanted to go to Barnes and Noble. Well, two things because I've been to the Strand in New York, so I kind of wanted to see how's a Barnes and Noble like because I've been to independent bookstores. So I kind of wanted to go to like chain, big media, big company bookstore in the US. I mean, I've been to Waterstones when I've been to England and stuff, so I kind of wanted to yeah, I wanted to see how Barnes and Noble is. And also, like, I feel like there's also always, or often, Barnes and Noble is kind of always what they kind of use in movies and stuff. Like when they go to a bookstore, that's not an independent one. They go to Barnes and Noble. So I've often seen it like in movies and stuff, but I haven't seen it with my own eyes. So I kind of wanted to go there, and yeah, it didn't happen. So it was kind of sad. I kind of also hope maybe I'll kind of find a Barnes and Noble at the airport, but no, didn't find it. A friend of mine who went to the trip said she saw a big bookstore at the airport, but I didn't find it. But still, I still have I found, well, two stores. None of them were pure bookstores, but like they had lots of books in them. One of them was Hudson, where I found a book in the bookstore, and the other one was Star News. So they had lots of magazines, but also lots of books. So I bought two books in the bookstore in Washington. So yeah. Also, regarding that, I'm kind of in a way proud of myself because I went to the United States and I only came back with four books. Four books. I mean, it could have been so much more. Like the summer, I think I bought around 10 books. So I suppose that also had to do like I knew that I wasn't flying. I didn't have to think about how heavy stuff was and stuff. But still, four books. I'm kind of proud of myself that I didn't buy more than those really. Buy more than that. So yeah, that was quite fun. So yeah, you're probably curious about the two books I bought at the airport. I bought a very secret the very sorry, not a very the very secret society of irregular witches by Sango Mandana. So this has kind of been all over the internet, I would say, or booknet for the last few months. It came out this year, and I heard only good things about it. And I also kind of ended up already reading it and loving it. Definitely one of the best reads of the year. Maybe one of the best reads of my life. Maybe. But yeah. And then I also bought Plot Twist by Bethany Turner. I believe I heard about it, but I only made another book with this title. But yeah, it's adult rom-com set in a book world, book world around books, which yeah, you gotta love. I love books, and of course I'm gonna love books about books. Well, not of course, but yeah, I love books about books. So yeah, and yeah, so that's kind of I suppose was my experience in the US. I mean, yeah, as I said, well, yeah, I already mentioned like how I didn't that there was like no bookstores around every corner, which surprised me. But also, neither in Washington or New York, like I would say, like in both places, I didn't really see that many stores, like shops. Like I saw like hotels, a lot of places, and I saw Starbucks all around, more or less everywhere. But like except museum stores, I didn't like see that many stores. I was like, where are all the stores? So maybe it's kind of just places I went in New York and Washington, or maybe like the big cities where like in the big cities it's kind of more like you go to malls instead of going to places where there's just one store. I mean, of course we have malls in Norway as well, but like in Norway, if you more or less every city you can walk down the main street and you can see lots of shops, both chain shops like H&M and what have you, but also used bookstores or whatever. Like you can see lots of stores, and I didn't like see that many of those in Washington or New York, and that kind of surprised me. And yeah, also kind of another point to that, I didn't really find that many used books. I didn't find any used stores like secondhand stores. I didn't see them. So if that's just kind of that I went to the wrong part of New York, because you'd kind of think there would be some kind of that in New York, or if you're like, or if New York just doesn't have secondhand stores. I don't know. But also that Washington didn't have it. I don't know. It's kind of surprised me. And also another thing that surprised me. Yes, this is the part where I talk about things that surprised me, but it's not kind of fun to hear, I would think. But yeah, as I said, in most places in Norway, but also in most places in Norway, like sounds like an expert, but yeah, I'm Norwegian. I've traveled around Norway quite a bit, I would say. But I also travel around the world also, so I could also talk about the world. But like, yeah, in most places I've gone to, they had like at least one or two streets where there's a pedestrian street. So like there's no cars allowed, so you can just walk around. There's no cars there. There's stores, but there's no cars, so there's just like a small pathway. It's not like a big road for cars to use. And in New York City, there was no thing like that, not at all. Like all the streets, but huge car streets. Like all the streets have lots of cars in them. Like there was no pedestrian area, no pedestrian streets. The only thing I would say slightly similar to that would be like the Times Square, like the main place in Times Square where you have like a small place for pedestrians. But it's not really a street, it's more like a few a few meters. Like it's kind of like if okay, you can think that okay. So this is like pedestrian place, and then there's a road this way for cars, and there's a road this way for cars, and this way for cars. So there were cars everywhere around, but just kind of in the middle, there was a bit of place for the pedestrians. So I'm not really sure how if that really counts, or like I don't know. Wasn't really a significant pedestrian place really, and that surprised me. So that's weird. Also, I didn't really expect that many cars in New York. Like people always talk about how New York or New Yorkers they walk everywhere or they use the subway everywhere. So I kind of expected there would be less cars. And yeah, I mean, some people probably work in New York and live outside of New York, and then we could use a car to go to work. But still, I mean, also like I didn't really see the point after a while because people who are in New York and use cars, they don't really drive around. They just wait around because there's constant traffic jams. Like sound that you'll be very familiar with in New York is just kind of the honking of horns. People like beep beep beep, and they honk all the time. Even though I mean, you see clearly that the car in front of you is not moving because the car in front of that one is not moving. I mean, because traffic is so stacked. So just kind of honking at people, it makes no sense because honking at people will not make traffic any less trafficful. So I don't know, it just seems silly in my mind. But yeah, I didn't expect that many buses at all, and that was a bit weird. But yeah, it was fun to be surprised. So yeah, I think I've said what I've said. Said what I said. Said kind of what I wanted to say. Yeah, it was sunny most days. We had one day or a bit rain, but most days it wasn't that much rain, and it was sunny and nice. It was a bit cold in Washington than it was in New York City, but I would say it wasn't ever like cold. It wasn't like seriously cold, at least not for my experience. And yeah, I did enjoy it. I kind of want to go back to New York, I'll say. Like maybe just use a whole week in New York because this time we went to New York but also went to Washington. I would think I kind of want to go back. But yeah, if I ever will go back, maybe not because it's other side of the world. It's quite expensive and whatnot. I mean, you might be asking yourself, how did you go this time? Because my parents are nice and we like each other, we don't really argue. So we went as a family and they paid for me. So that was nice. So yeah, it was a family trip. Well, family trip. Can you call it a family trip when the whole family didn't go? Because it was me and my parents, and I have sisters. So it's not like they don't exist, but I didn't go to the trip. But yeah, I suppose I mean it's easy for me to go because I don't have a husband and kids to like take with me or like leave. But I mean, not saying that you can't go on trips without your family. Like my sisters, they have kids who are under 3, so kids in that age kind of, I suppose they kind of like very like mom, mom, mom. So yeah, leaving them, I suppose, would be difficult. So yeah, and that was kind of my little vlog, or yeah, a little video on my trip to New York City. As I said, I'm thinking I'll post some pictures. I'm not sure if I'll do it before or after. Maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll do both. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing these last few weeks. Well, few weeks. I went around 9 days, so just 1 week and a few more days. So yeah, uh, yeah. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I talked about, if you have any thoughts on New York City, Washington, if yeah, things you wanted to say about, if you want to go to New York City as well, or if you've been there, feel free to talk about me, talk to me in the comments, and I'll see you soon. Bye.